What's up, y'all? Today I'm going to teach you how to hit obstacles. So today isn't really necessarily a tutorial, but it's more of like a bunch of guidelines on how to hit obstacles well, maybe how to hop on from the side or how to hop on from the front, or even how to ride straight on, and also just how to stay on the obstacle once you're on without getting pulled off. So the main tip when learning to hit obstacles would be to really avoid being on edge on the plastic. You can edge on the water to get over to the obstacle, but really make sure you flatten off when getting onto it. Make sure that you are not on edge because the plastic is hard and you cannot dig your board down into it. Therefore, it will cause you to slip out onto your butt or even slip out onto your face. So really try and stay flat and low and center on your board to really avoid crashing. So if you are going to ride onto an obstacle without actually ollieing onto it, really make sure that the obstacle has a mellow entrance so that you don't get bucked when riding onto the obstacle. The arrow is a really good obstacle here for it. I just like to edge right on over to it and just flatten off before it, and I can just ride right on top of that thing, have my knees bent, stay somewhat low, and ride straight across the rail. Some of you may be wondering what's easier, to do a 50-50 on the rail, which is just riding straight across it, or even doing a board slide and riding across it that way. They both have an advantage and a disadvantage. Doing a 50-50 is a lot easier to balance forward and backwards, but it will be harder to balance all the way across the rail, and it'll be harder to get full pulls on the obstacle. If you are doing a board slide, you have a lot more area side to side, so it will be easier to ride all the way across the obstacle, and you can sort of use your right and left foot to sort of balance on the obstacle. But at times you may slip on your butt just because your board is a lot narrower forward and backwards whenever you are in a board slide position. So that's kind of the disadvantage there. You are going to need to stay perfectly flat on top of your board to avoid slipping out. But yeah, 50-50, it's a lot easier to be kind of maybe stable, but board slide will be a lot easier to stay on the obstacle all the way to the end. A lot of people, when first hitting obstacles, will sort of have a lot of trouble getting to the end of the rail without getting pulled off. That's because you'll just get in line with the rail and you're hopping on it. Therefore, the cable, which is to either side of you, will end up pulling you off to the inside, and you won't end up getting that full pull. For example, when getting pulled off early, say the cable is on the left side of me and here is my rope, and this blue and concrete line right there is the obstacle I will be riding. If I am already perfectly straight in front of it and start attempting to ride down that line, the cable is over here pulling me, so the cable will end up pulling me off early. But if I create some momentum and edge out towards the obstacle and flatten off last second and get on here, I will have a little bit of outward momentum, which will keep me on the rail all the way to the end. If you do edge too hard when approaching the obstacle, you may fall off the outside. If you don't edge hard enough, you may fall off to the inside. So it won't be perfect every single time, but the more you ride and hit that obstacle, you will know the exact edge you need to take. So once you perfect that, you'll be able to get to the end almost every single time. Sometimes obstacles will have a really steep safety entrance. Therefore, you can't really just ride up onto it. You're going to need to learn how to ollie on. On these steep entrances, you are going to need to ollie up and over that. And that's going to sort of require timing. So maybe you could go elsewhere in the cable park, maybe find a buoy or something else to ollie over and practice getting your timing right there. And then take this on over to a rail like the C box here at CWC, and you can hop on up over the safety and ride all the way up that obstacle. Maybe you are a slightly more advanced rider and you're wanting to hop onto an obstacle from the side. Basically, you're gonna need to get your front foot up high enough and bring that up and over the rail. So on your heel side, this would be sort of a back board. Get your front foot up, get your heel side over that board and ride up in a board slide. And if it's on your toe side, you're gonna wanna get your front foot up and over the rail and ride up the rail in a front board. When getting onto the rail from the side, it's just really, really important to get your front foot up and higher than the rail. If you are gonna do a lip, your back foot's gonna need to get higher as well. But when first learning, you're gonna want to do a board. There will be some obstacles that have sort of a steep safety entrance, but it's not too steep to actually ride up. On an obstacle like this, you're gonna wanna really just absorb that safety bump with your knees. So just soak it up and then get nice and low and center across the box, kind of like the one here at CWC. For hitting kickers for the very first time, you can have just a slight edge, either heel side or toe side, whichever you prefer for the first time. But when you're getting onto the kicker, you are gonna need to flatten off last second because you cannot edge on the kicker just like you cannot edge on any obstacle. Be nice, low, and center. Maybe even absorb the kicker for the first time with your knees just so you don't get bucked. But yeah, have that handle somewhat low, close to your waist. So if you do get pulled over the front, you can kind of just save yourself by pulling down. But yeah, just bend your knees on impact on those kickers and just ride away. For the most part, that's kind of my guideline just for hitting all obstacles in general. If y'all like this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Comment below on what kind of videos you guys want to see in the future. Also remember, there are tons and tons more tutorials on my channel from beginner to pro. So make sure you guys subscribe and I'll see y'all next time. Peace!